Joining me now to talk more about this is Phil Clark. He is a professor of international politics at London University's School of Oriental and African Studies. Thanks very much for being with us. So let me ask you, first of all, is this a peace agreement that can hold, particularly given that there are reports of fighting still taking place on the ground?
There's a great deal of skepticism in Central Africa that this peace deal will hold. Looking at the Congolese and the Rwandan reaction on the ground today, I think there are real concerns that while it is historic that Tshisekedi and Kagame have been in the same room and have been talking to one another, something that hasn't happened in a very long time, it's very unclear that any of this is going to translate into actual peace on the ground. Your correspondent just there reported that violence is raging, the population is still being displaced. So I think the concern is there's a big gap between what the two presidents have just signed in Washington and what's actually happening in North and South Kivu at the moment.
As far as the US role in all of this then, what can they do to follow up on this and ensure that the two sides stick to the deal?
This is one of the real weaknesses of this peace process, that the US is not a neutral broker. It's a very interested party. It's trying to do with Congo and Rwanda what it's been trying to do with Russia and Ukraine, which is to use critical minerals as a bargaining chip. But the problem there is that makes the US a party to this conflict. It's not a neutral actor. It's seeking its own economic interest in bringing these two parties together. So that's a real complication. There's a second complication here, which is that many of the mineral concessions that both Rwanda and Congo have said they will give to US companies are currently being controlled by Chinese companies. So in fact, both Rwanda and Congo have made promises in this peace process that ultimately they may not be able to deliver on. And I think the US will discover that. The US will realize perhaps too late that the deal that has been signed in Washington, particularly in the mineral sense, is very difficult to deliver on. I think what we'll then see is the US begin to cool on this process. I think they'll start to withdraw from this process. And the danger is that we just end up back in exactly the same situation of the conflict that the countries have seen for the last 2 years.
Now, we mentioned earlier that the fighting that is still going on, this is between the M23 rebels and the DRC government. There is a separate track of negotiations going on to end that, a separate peace process that's being brokered by Qatar. What confidence, if any, do you have that will lead to something?
This, unfortunately, is one of the other weaknesses of the Washington process, is that it hasn't brought the M23 rebels around the table. There is this parallel process happening in Doha between M23 and the Congolese government, but that's a completely separate process. It hasn't been integrated with what's happening in Washington. And the outcome of that is that because M23 is not party to this current agreement, their violence in Eastern Congo is continuing. But there's another set of actors here that's been left out of the conversation, which is the range of militias and rebel groups on the ground that are being used also by the Congolese army. Both Rwanda and Congo are using proxy forces. Congo and Rwanda will say, we've signed this peace agreement in Washington. As states, we are no longer at each other's throats. But both actors are very likely to continue using these proxies. These proxies have not been party to these negotiations. And as a result of that, I think we're likely to see that rebel violence continuing over the months and potentially the years to come.
Good to get your analysis. Phil Clark joining us there from London. Thank you.